He thought he rescued an abandoned puppy. For years, it slept by his bed, followed him everywhere, and became his best friend. But one shocking discovery years later revealed it was never a dog at all, and what it truly was left everyone speechless. The rain came down in relentless sheets that night, soaking the empty country road in a shimmering layer of water. Headlights cut through the darkness as Daniel gripped the steering wheel, his wipers struggling to keep up. He wasn't supposed to be out here. His shift had ended hours ago, but something tugged at him to take the long way home. Then, through the blare of rain, he saw it. A tiny, trembling figure huddled at the side of the road. Daniel slowed, squinting through the glass. It was a puppy, or at least, it looked like one, soaked to the bone, shivering violently, its eyes wide and frightened. Daniel pulled over, heart racing. He stepped into the cold rain, his boots splashing in the puddles. The little creature flinched at first but didn't run. It was too weak. He knelt slowly, speaking softly. "Hey, little one, it's okay. I've got you." When he reached out, the animal hesitated only a moment before crawling into his palm. It was impossibly small, its fur soft yet strangely coarse under his fingers. Daniel tucked the shivering bundle inside his jacket, feeling its frantic heartbeat against his chest. As he drove home, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that fate had placed this fragile life in his path. He promised himself he'd take care of it, whatever it took. He had no idea that this rain-a-night rescue would change his life forever, and that the tiny puppy in his arms was hiding a secret no one could have imagined. Daniel named the tiny creature Shadow, because no matter where he went, it followed him with quiet, watchful eyes. The first few weeks were a blur of warm blankets, tiny feedings, and careful baths. Shadow quickly transformed from a shivering bundle into a lively, curious little companion, filling Daniel's small house with unexpected joy. Every morning, Shadow would wake him with soft nudges, curling up by his feet as he drank his coffee. It never barked, at least, not like other dogs, but made soft, almost musical sounds that Daniel found oddly comforting. At night, it would curl against his chest, breathing steadily as if it finally felt safe. Neighbors often stopped by to see the little puppy. They would smile at first, charmed by its big dark eyes, but a few tilted their heads in confusion. "He's cute," one neighbor said hesitantly, "but he doesn't really look like a dog I've seen before." Daniel laughed it off, brushing away the comment. To him, Shadow was perfect, no matter how different he seemed. As the months passed, their bond deepened. Shadow followed Daniel everywhere, on morning runs, late-night drives, and quiet walks through the woods. Sometimes, Daniel swore the animal could sense his emotions, comforting him on lonely nights or bouncing excitedly when he felt happy. Yet, there were moments that left him quietly puzzled. The way Shadow's ears flicked toward sounds no human could hear, the way its eyes glowed in the moonlight, and how, sometimes, it moved with a speed and grace unlike any dog he had ever known. It was late one evening when Daniel first felt a twinge of unease. Shadow, now several months older, was exploring the edge of his backyard under the pale glow of the moon. Daniel sipped his coffee on the porch, smiling as he watched his little companion prowl the grass. But then, something caught his eye. Shadow froze, head snapping toward the woods as if sensing something unseen. Its posture changed, alert, predatory, yet eerily silent. The night was still, but Daniel felt a chill creep up his spine. Without warning, Shadow darted forward, moving so fast and fluidly that it didn't seem like a dog at all. Daniel rushed after it, heart pounding, only to find Shadow perched on a fallen tree trunk, staring into the forest with glowing eyes that reflected the moonlight like twin lanterns. "Shadow," he called cautiously. The animal turned toward him, calm yet different. For a brief moment, Daniel swore it didn't look like a puppy anymore. Over the following weeks, other oddities emerged. Shadow scaled fences effortlessly, leaping higher than seemed possible for a dog its size. Its paws left tracks that didn't quite match normal canine prints, elongated, with an almost feline curve. And its vocalizations had shifted too, soft yips replaced by strange trills and haunting, almost melodic cries at night. Daniel's friends noticed, too. "Are you sure that's a dog?" one of them asked, half joking. Daniel laughed it off, but deep inside, doubt began to fester. He adored Shadow, Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that his dog was something else entirely. One crisp autumn morning, Daniel woke to a commotion outside. Shadow's strange, melodic cries echoed through the yard. He hurried to the window and froze. His neighbors were gathered by the fence, whispering and pointing. Shadow stood in the grass, its fur bristling, eyes locked on a large hawk circling above. When the hawk swooped lower, Shadow didn't bark or cower, it leaped. With an astonishing burst of power, the animal sprang several feet into the air, nearly grazing the hawk with its claws. Claws! Daniel's breath caught. He ran outside, his heart pounding. Shadow landed gracefully and turned toward him, panting softly. In the sunlight, Daniel saw it clearly. Its limbs had grown lean and strong, its face sharper, more angular than a dog's. Even its tail, once short and curled, now had a wild, flowing plume. That afternoon, Daniel decided he needed answers. He took Shadow to a local veterinarian, a calm woman with decades of experience. She examined the animal carefully, her brows knitting in confusion. "This isn't a dog," she finally said, her voice low. "At least, not entirely." Daniel blinked, stunned. "What do you mean?" The vet hesitated, then pulled out a field guide. She flipped to a page and turned it toward him. A photograph stared back at him, an animal that looked almost identical to Shadow. "This," she said slowly, "is a wolf pup. And judging by its features, possibly part wild species. You've been raising a predator." Daniel sat in his car outside the veterinary clinic, hands gripping the steering wheel, his mind spinning. A wolf. He had been raising a wolf, and never once suspected the truth. His heart thudded with a mix of awe and fear. Shadow wasn't just different. Shadow was wild. That night, he watched Shadow more carefully than ever. The way it stalked the edges of the yard, silent as a shadow, its ears twitching to distant sounds, it all made sense now. Daniel recalled the glowing eyes, the unusual tracks, the melodic howls that seemed to call to the moon. Shadow had never been a dog, but he couldn't let anyone find out. Rumors had already begun among the neighbors. If someone reported him, wildlife control could take Shadow away, or worse. Daniel vowed to protect the creature he had raised, no matter what. Over the next year, his life became a delicate balancing act. He trained Shadow to respond to his voice, kept it away from strangers, and made sure it had room to roam in the secluded woods behind his home. And despite its wild nature, Shadow remained deeply loyal. It would rest its head on his knee, nuzzle his hand, and curl up by the fire as though it belonged there. Still, in the quiet of the night, Daniel sometimes saw the wildness in its eyes. He knew, one day, the world might force him to make a choice between his beloved companion and the call of the wild. Years slipped by, and Daniel's life quietly revolved around the secret he had been keeping. Shadow had grown into a magnificent creature, taller, stronger, and more graceful than any dog he had ever seen. Its coat shimmered silver in the moonlight, and its amber eyes held an untamed intelligence that sometimes sent a shiver down his spine. Then, one fateful evening, the inevitable happened. Daniel was walking Shadow along a remote woodland trail when a group of wildlife researchers appeared, carrying cameras and equipment. Shadow froze, its body stiff, as one of the researchers whispered, "Incredible, we've been tracking one of these for years." Daniel's heart stopped. "One of these?" he asked hesitantly. The lead researcher stepped closer, or written across his face. "Sir, this isn't a dog. It's a North American wolf hybrid, possibly part of a rare, protected lineage. We've never seen one so tame." In that moment, the truth hit Daniel like a tidal wave. All the years of mystery, the glowing eyes, the melodic howls, it all made sense. He hadn't just saved a dog that rainy night. He had rescued a wild creature that had chosen to trust him. As the researchers observed Shadow with quiet reverence, Daniel knelt down and stroked the animal's fur. "You've been my best friend all these years," he whispered. "Dog or wolf, it never mattered." Shadow leaned against him, letting out a soft, soulful howl that echoed through the forest, a sound of freedom, loyalty, and a bond that would last a lifetime. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's life changed forever. The wildlife researchers offered to help monitor Shadow, ensuring he remained healthy and safe, while allowing him to stay with Daniel under special supervision. It was an unusual arrangement, but everyone agreed that separating the two would break both of their hearts. Daniel became something of a local legend, the man who had unknowingly raised a wild wolf. But for him, the fame didn't matter. What mattered was the bond he shared with Shadow. Every evening, the two would sit on the porch, watching the sun sink behind the forest. Shadow would rest his head in Daniel's lap, his amber eyes soft with a loyalty that words could never capture. One evening, a letter arrived from the researchers, confirming their final report. Your animal is a pure wolf hybrid, part of a rare, protected bloodline. Thanks to you, he survived. Daniel looked down at Shadow, who gazed back with knowing eyes. You're my family, he whispered. And for years to come, man and wolf lived side by side, their story a testament to the power of an unbreakable bond.